Hey everyone, I hope you've had a great day so far and that you're doing well. For this video we'll be continuing through our little Yolopark mini series with another unboxing, time lapse and review of another blind box, the second of 6, from the AMK Mini Series Wave 2. And the Wave 2 theme is pretty much the Transformers Generation 1 series, as evident by the characters on the front of the box. So in the previous week, we started this brand new series, looking at this particular Wave 2 releases of the AMK Mini Series. And so far we've opened up a standard Cliffjumper, who definitely wasn't too bad. And I will admit, after the fact, I did find that there is a bit more articulation opportunity available after I did a little bit of a short. So I actually might start doing some of these shorts after the initial video has been released and everything. Anyway, getting straight into it. So here is one of these particular blind boxes. Here's the front of the box with the 6 known characters. So we have Hot Rod, Jazz, RC Prowl, Hound, and Cliffjumper. Cliffjumper we have already done, and there is a potential for some alternatives of Hot Rod and Prowl, being, I think it's Unicron, Rodimus Unicronus, or is it the other way around with the naming? Can't remember. And I think for Prowl the alternative was Blue Streak. So that's the front of the box. Little size chart here just to give you an indication of some of the sizing. Basic instructions on how they're built. So they're not a pure model kit per se, but there is some assembly there. Top of the box, bottom of the box, and the back of the box, just going through those characters once again, and some of the limited edition potentials within the series, because they're blind boxes. You'll never know until you actually crack one open. I'm not going to lose sleep if I never get any of them. Would I like to? Yes, but time will tell. Anyway, that's pretty much the box side of things done. I will open this box up and I will try to carefully take out the bag, because I do know these blind boxes aren't so blind on the inside. Okay, everything out of the box. So here's the box. I'm glad they actually use the foldable type lens and the little sticky tape, because it does make opening them so much easier. So there's the box as we've seen before. The construction manual is still in here. The special card of the character is still in here. I actually do have no idea who it is, so I was quite discreet with making sure I didn't see who was in there. So that was the box, which we've already seen enough. Here's the included bag with the actual character inside it. It is not see-through, as you can see, just to keep up appearances with the blind box, which is, I still think is funny, because there's that little character card in there. Anyway, if I was to open this bag up, it actually feels there's a lot of pieces in here. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Hot Rod, but I feel it could be something a little bit more green. And yes, I would be right. So if I just put that away, obviously do not eat the little desiccator packet. So we pretty much have Hound. Okay, that is supposed to be like that. So that's Hound's collection of pieces. So now that we've gone through that, in terms of what else was in the box, so there's a little character card for Hound there, 11cm Hound for Wave 2. So that is very nice that we get to see these. I'm glad the instructions are not in the back. It's just a nice little collectible card for the character. So we have that. Have this usual promotional sheet, whatever. And then the Wave 2 instructions, which has everyone on it. So obviously we'll be needing Hound later on. But there's Jazz, Hot Rod, RC, Prowl, and Cliffjumper. So good news is Hound is on one of those faces where I can just keep him exactly like that. So looking at this, so Hound will have 2 different hand options. He will have one handheld weapon and a shoulder mounted weapon. And yeah, and obviously that just goes through some of the actual articulation that the little model will be capable of. I'll go through that in the video anyway, but it is written down if you were ever so inclined. So now that that part has been done, I'm going to just order these pieces and then put Hound together. Okay, the time lapse of Hound done, and I will admit I did have to spend about half a minute or two afterwards just to make sure everything was attached, right alignment and everything. Here we have the completed Generation 1 Hound. So before we delve too much into that, a bit of a repeat. So we did get the little card for Hound, which I actually did cross-reference just to make sure things were in the right alignment. So we have that. The instructions, which I won't go through, but those were the instructions for Hound. I will have a comment about it later on. It's probably a bit reminiscent of what I used to say for the Blockies wheels. And then we have Hound. All his accessories are currently attached, and a pair of open-handed manipulators. So we do have these two here, which are nice. And I guess maybe for sake of discussion, I'll just switch out one of these hands. So there you go. One closed hand and one open hand. So those are those, and I'll put them to the side for the time being. So what do we have here? So we have Hound from the front, his left side, his right side, from the rear, from the top just for the sake of discussion, and then just a nice close-up of his upper body and torso. So aesthetically, Hound is looking pretty good for this type of model kit. He's got his nice forest green, I guess, color here. We have a nice inclusion of pre-painted yellow on his forearms and his waist. On the back, surprisingly, we do have this nice blue where his front windscreen of his alt mode would basically tuck into, so it's actually nice that they've included that particular level of detail. Bottom legs will be in a lighter grey for the upper thighs, the upper arms will be in a darker grey, much like his hands are as well. We do have a bit of this light grey, some silver here on the front of his chest for his alt mode representation. Once again, a nice Autobot insignia here on his left. His head will also be encased in that nice forest green with the lighter grey faceplate and blue eyes. And then for his weapons, we do have a nice splash of silver there, both the hand weapon and the shoulder missile launcher. So overall, aesthetically, they have done a very good job of capturing the Generation 1 look for Hound right down to his actual weapons. I feel there's been many iterations of Hound where it's a case of there's the shoulder, there's the handgun, there's neither, there's sometimes both, etc, etc. So for a model kit to actually include both of those from a detailing perspective, I think is actually really nicely done. Colors are also quite nice for what you get for a basic model kit. Could the color accuracy be better? Probably. Could the detailing be better? Probably. But it is a little model kit at its price point. I mean, it's not, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it's not a model kit per se, in the sense that I had to build everything off a plastic sprue. It's just basically connecting things at peg points, ball sockets, etc. So it's not the most convoluted model kit. And I still like to use the word model kit in this case quite loosely. So that's the general look of Hound. So overall, I think they've done quite well with getting that colorization. Now, in terms of the articulation, so I guess starting from the top, so his shoulder cannon will surprisingly move up and down here at this hinge. There will be no rotation. It is on a fixed point, so it will only move up and down like so, which is going to be interesting because I wonder if it'll get away with the head. And by the looks of it, no. So the head will actually be able to do a full 360. It is on a ball socket, so it can do a nice little spin. Now, because it is on that ball socket, it can obviously go up, go down, and as we saw, do the side-to-side tilt and spin, etc. As I said, because it is a ball socket. So that is cool. Now, as for the arms, so the arms can do a full 360 here at the very top of the shoulder, once again for being a ball socket. It will only go out this far though, so if you wanted to do some type of arm raise there, that's as far as it will go. Otherwise, you can go straight forward, straight back, but your side raise does feel a little limited. Now, up here at the very top of the arm, so just underneath the shoulder, you will have a nice little 360 spin there at the very top. Just bear in mind that after a while, you could accidentally just detach it from the arm, just because that's where the peg connector point is. In terms of the elbow will be able to do that much in the way of a elbow bend for a nice standard 90 degrees, and then reset back there. And then the hand will be able to do a full 360 here, and because it's just a peg point going in. So that's very cool. So unlike Cliffjumper, at least he can do a very nice that nice little elbow bend there with his handheld weapon, and not have the weapon actually get in the way. The handheld weapon is surprisingly just one of these little more of a thinner type peg point, which technically could actually go up here in the shoulder point. It would just be a little bit weird. So those are the arms. We've already talked about the hands. In terms of well, before we get to the actual lower waist, there will be an ever so slight ab crunch. Ever so slight. It's not huge. It doesn't even really have much of a back one. It's just a really slight front one. But he will have a bit of a side crunch, surprisingly enough, but not too much. So unlike Cliffjumper, who had a bit more of a abdominal crunch, Hound is not going to have as much, but he will have a nice full 360 here at the waist. Why you would do that, I do not know, because it does look a bit painful, even for a robot. In terms of the legs, so the legs will only go so far out. He will not be able to do a full split. Could be argued if you could even do a split to begin with. So that's the side to side. From the front, probably just as reduced, and then the back surprisingly probably has the most. Why you would do such a far kickback, I'm not too sure, but there you go, it is there. The very top of the leg will have a nice 360 spin there, should you choose to do it. Now, if you're going to go for the knee bend, it'll actually do more than 90 degrees, probably, I don't want to say 125, I feel it's a little bit less than that, but that's definitely not too bad. So you've actually got a bit of that nice knee bend going there, and if you want to make use of that little swivel spin up there, you don't have to, but it's there. As for the feet, they are ball sockets, so they can do a nice 360 spin there at the actual socket, and just the way that it is, you can actually not completely pull out, but you can actually pull out the actual foot just to give yourself a bit more space to move it around, just the way that the joint works, and then just kind of reset it back in when you are done. But otherwise, that is pretty much the articulation for Hound. So respectable amount of articulation, and I guess if we were to just bring back the instruction manual, so it's got flexible head rotation, rotation at the shoulder, the arm bend. It's actually apparently 120. The top of the legs can move flexibly. I'd argue about, well, no, the thighs can move flexibly, the hips cannot. There's a turn that we talked about. The waist can do, yeah, that side crunch, front, back kick 90 degrees. Well, back kick, yes. Articulated hand. I'd argue if you call it a front kick to the 90 degrees, and then there's that full 360 there at the feet. So overall, the articulation is there. Now it is like an 11 centimeter, you know, miniature model kit slash action figure type thing. So for what the price point is and everything, it's not too bad. Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't complain. And, you know, once again, some of the detailing here is nice. And I always felt that Yolopark tend to try and capture a bit more of the visual aesthetic and not so much some of the playability. Much more evident in some of the other scales outside of the mini series, like the AMK Pro and things like that, where you start basically paying a premium price for some of those quote-unquote model kits, but visually they do actually look really, really nice. So we've done the articulation for Hound, we've had a quick look, we've talked about his colours and everything, so overall he's actually not too bad. Just for the sake of comparison, here is Hound with Cliffjumper. Bring you back to some of the early days of Series 1, Season 1 of Transformers. They actually do look pretty cool together. They're very much animation centric, and I think that's pretty cool about it. So those are the two together. Now, as for Hound, what are my thoughts about Hound? So I guess if we'll start with some of the quote-unquote negatives. Now, the instructions for some things are a tad bit small, so I did find I landed a tad bit of confusion with his chest and just understanding the correct orientation of things. Probably more my fault than anything else for not having a decent look at this before I started building. But at the same time, it would be nice that your visual instructions weren't so small. Everything else is pretty okay, although I will admit I did mix and match the arms around a little bit, but overall wasn't too bad. So that's my little critique about the manual, something that I'll probably have to be more mindful of in the future. I mean, just looking at Rodimus, probably not a bad idea. Well, Hot Rod. No, it is Rodimus. It'd probably be a good idea. Make sure I read through that before I build Rodimus. So that's my critique about the actual instructions. Otherwise, it's pretty self-explanatory. So it's definitely not too bad. One of the other critiques, and this is more about Yolopark in general, the joints when putting things together I did feel were a bit stiff. So just be careful with your ball joints. They will obviously pop on with a little bit of force, but I think you do need a little bit of that extra force just to get those pieces securely on. I'm a little bit dubious with some of the connections that are just basically peg points. I don't want to say they're loose because once again, you know, things aren't falling off, the legs aren't falling off, the arms aren't falling off. But you know, if you spin it around enough times, you will just happily, you know, just pull an entire arm off. It's not intentional, but it's just probably the nature of the joint and just being mindful that, you know, the repeated motion may possibly do that. So yes, the main irk I had really with the construction side of things is just the actual tightness of the joints. But as I said, I do find it's more of an attribute of Yolopark kits I don't think it's something specific to Hound. Although in saying that, Cliffjumper actually wasn't too bad last week. Could there be a bit more color apps? Probably, but you know, it's a mini series. I think for what it's trying to capture, everything that needs to be there is there. And as I mentioned at the beginning, like, this strip of blue didn't have to be there at all. They could have left that in black or well, not black, the green, possibly left it in the grey, although it probably would have been the green. So to be fair, you know, some of the extra paint apps, and these are paint apps that they've done, it's nothing I've done directly, are very nice. I'm sure if I want to do that, probably some things I could do just to enhance some of the detailing, you know, some panel lining. There's some nice panel lining options here if I did want to make some of these features pop out a little bit more, especially here on the grill. Like, even a bit of panel lining on that would just really bring out some of that detailing there if I elected to do it. But overall, it's a little minifigure. What can I expect, really? So yeah, final thoughts for Hound is, you know, he's a sturdy little 11 centimeter model. Putting him together definitely wasn't too bad. There's just a few little nitpicky things, which is some of the smaller parts to be mindful of. Still has some of the general attributes of a Yolopark build where it can feel a little bit stiff with the joints, but surprisingly for this type of figure size, it does have a respectable amount of articulation, so I can't complain with that. And you know, at the end of the day, it's probably just going to go into one particular pose and forever stay that way. So overall, it's probably a relatively minor issue with some of that stiffness in the joints, etc. But yeah, overall, pretty cool for these two. So that will pretty much bring us to the end of the unboxing, time-lapse and review for Hound from AMK Mini Series Wave 2. I feel I've probably taken this one a little bit longer than expected, so I'll have to try and cut it down for the third video. Thank you very much for watching this little trifecta video. Feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. All of this does help support the channel, and I do appreciate it. There's also extra content on my Instagram and and the YouTube community tab. Typically they're work in progress stuff, and I will admit it's very much 40k centric at this point in time, just because the time I have available right now has just been a little bit up in the air. So I'm just focusing on 40k content outside of trying to do some of these videos. Keep an eye out in the next day or two. I will try and do a bit of a short for Hound just to go back onto this video, just to be a little bit more entertaining, I guess. With that being said, stay safe and take care, and I'll catch you all in a future video, whether it's the third blind box from the Wave 2 set next week, or something else on the channel. See ya.